Imani was on the phone. She was standing in the kitchen, one hand holding the receiver, the other resting flat on the counter. She was speaking to someone at the electric company, explaining a billing problem, asking for a correction. Her sentences were clear. When she didn't understand something, she said, "Can you say that again, please?" and waited. The call took 11 minutes. When it ended, she made a note on the small notepad she kept by the phone, put the cap back on the pan, and started making lunch. 2 years earlier, Imani would not have made that call. She would have asked her neighbor Diane to make it. Diane was retired and patient and never made Imani feel bad about asking. So, Imani asked for the electric company, for the doctor's office, for the school when her daughter had a question about enrollment. She kept a mental list of things she could not do alone and people she could ask instead. The list was long. The people were kind, but every time she handed the phone to someone else, she looked at the window and waited for the conversation to be over. And something in her stayed very still and very small. The belief was not complicated. English was for people who had grown up with it, people who had made mistakes in it as children, when mistakes don't cost anything. She had come to the United States at 34. Mistakes at 34 cost more. They cost credibility. They cost respect. They cost the impression that you were capable and serious. In Nigeria, she had been a secondary school teacher. She had stood in front of 40 students and explained literature and grammar and the importance of precise language. Here, she went quiet in supermarkets. The distance between those two versions of herself was something she did not look at directly. It was easier not to. Then Diane went to visit her sister in Florida for 3 weeks. It was February. The heating bill arrived, and the number was wrong, almost double what it should have been. Imani looked at it for 2 days. She checked the meter herself. She wrote the numbers down. She was certain there was a mistake. She looked at the phone. She looked at the bill. She thought about waiting for Diane. 3 weeks was not so long, but the payment was due in 10 days, and she did not want to pay the wrong amount, and she did not want to be late, and she did not want to ask her daughter, who was 15 and already did too many things that mothers should do for themselves. She picked up the phone. She dialed the number on the bill. While it rang, she wrote 3 sentences on the notepad. "My name is Imani. I have a question about my bill. I think there is a mistake." The automated system asked her to press numbers. She pressed them. A person answered. "Hello, electric company? How can I help?" Imani looked at her notepad. "Hello, my name is Imani." She said her last name and her account number. which she had written at the top of the page. I have a question about my bill. A short pause. I think there is a mistake. The number is very high, more than usual. Her voice was careful and slow, but it was there. It was in the room. The man on the phone asked for her meter reading. She gave it. He asked when she had checked it. She told him, Tuesday, in the morning. He was quiet for a moment, typing. Then he said the problem was the system error, and the corrected bill would arrive in 5 to 7 business days. She understood system error. She understood 5 to 7 days. She said, Thank you very much, and put the phone down. Her hand was still flat on the counter. She had put it there at the beginning of the call without noticing. She lifted it now and looked at it as if it belonged to someone slightly different from the person who had picked up the phone 4 minutes ago. What she noticed was small. The man had not slowed down because of her accent. He had slowed down when the information was technical, the same way he probably slowed down for everyone. Her accent had not changed the pace of the conversation. She had expected it to. She had expected to feel like a problem he had to solve. Instead, she had felt, for most of those 4 minutes, like a customer with a billing question. That was all. That was enough to make her sit down at the kitchen table and look at the notepad for a long time. After that, she kept the notepad by the phone permanently. Before difficult calls, she wrote her 3 sentences. Sometimes she needed all of them. Sometimes she only needed one. She started reading the community newsletter that came in the mail every month. Not to understand everything, just to recognize more each time. She watched the local news in the evenings with the captions on. When her daughter's teacher called for a parent conference, she took the call herself. She still looked at the window sometimes during hard conversations, but she stopped waiting for them to be over. She started waiting for the information instead. Now, Imani was standing in the kitchen with the notepad and the pen and the 11-minute call behind her. The billing problem was resolved. The note she had made said, corrected, 5 days. She put the cap back on the pen and set it down next to the notepad, the way she always did, neatly, precisely, like a teacher who still believed that small things done carefully were worth doing carefully. She had not called Diane. Diane had been back from Florida for almost 2 years now, and Imani had not handed her the phone once, not because she no longer needed help. She still asked Diane for things, other things, the things neighbors ask each other. But the phone was hers now. The calls were hers. The notepad with the 3 sentences was hers. She put the kettle on and started making lunch, And outside the window, the morning continued without our noticing, the way mornings do when you are finally quietly at home. Hi guys, I am Nadir. I hope today's story encouraged you to speak English. See you next video. Bye.